Hey guys, it's Joe Carrell here in beautiful downtown Nashville, Tennessee, and it is beautiful this time of year. I hope it is where you're at. We're here today on behalf of my friends with Plug-in Alliance to talk about something new from our friends at Neold. You may be familiar with their products, the V76 that I did a video for, and the Big Owl, which those are great tools, very analog flavored tools that have found a sweet spot in my mixing. And today we're going to introduce, look at the screen right here, behold Warble. Warble is a tape-based plugin that achieves modulation. It achieves a lot of things. When you look at the screen right here, it's like, well, that's just a handful of knobs, and it is, which is wonderful. We can go to some pretty extreme measures, both in tape as well as in modulation. On this, just using these couple knobs here. Let's just kind of break down what we're looking at first, okay? So on the left-hand side of the screen here where I'm moving my mouse, we have wow and flutter. Now, if anybody out there is not familiar with that term, wow and flutter goes back to, gosh, as far back as analog tape, goes. And that was slight speed variations in the playback of the tape. Or gosh, even on record players, the warble, if our record was just a little bit warped, even if the hole in the center of the record was cut a little off center or was a little misshaped, it caused slight pitch variations. And of course, we wanted to keep that out of our productions. But now, there's times where we really want to use wow and flutter to extremes for sound design. And they do some pretty cool things. So these two knobs here, combined with these two buttons, fast and slow, are kind of, think of that as one process, right? If you look in the middle here, we have age in the middle, and that is the age of the tape, which, those guitar players, out there that remember tape echoes, and if you changed the cartridge in your tape echo, how different it would sound, an old cartridge, that had been used for some years or whatever. And when you changed it to a new cartridge, where the high end lived, and the amount of tape saturation, it was a very different thing. And so we have that built into this plugin right here. On the top, we have dirt, that's just distortion, drive, and it's very useful in the sound design world. As well as we have noise here. And let me just go ahead and demo the noise, because that's something you just have to hear that you won't hear throughout the rest of this program. And here it is. It is indeed just noise. So if you ever need that in your productions, you have it, right? And then we have two of the most powerful tools that any engineer can have in their arsenal. And I use them every day on every mix. And that is just a simple high cut and low cut filter. High pass, low pass, whatever you want to call them, that's what they do. And if we click on the knob here, we'll see, it tells us the frequency that we're living at, right? So we kind of know where we're not just guessing, it'll tell us where we're at. So that is the plugin in a nutshell. But now let's talk about, what it can do within your productions. Let me mention real quick this song. That's my artist friend, Mackenzie Johnson. I produced this track for her a couple months ago. She is amazing. Please take time to look her up on her social media. She's one of these people that gets millions and millions of views on TikTok and YouTube because she's awesome. So look her up, Mackenzie Johnson. And I think one really effective way to show you in the sound design world is using something very percussive like a kick drum. And this particular kick drum, I'll play for you, that's in this production, is something like this. Okay, let me show you. I'm going to turn the dirt way down and the age way down. And let me show you that adjusting these in real time, just how radical we can get with this plugin, okay? Now let's combine that with age. Combine that with the high cut and low cut, and you can take some samples in your library and turn them into something radically different. Okay, so as far as a mixer's tool instead of a producer's tool, something that I like to do a lot of digital, a lot of samples that we have in our library have a lot of attack, way too much. The RMS, the dynamic range is just way too big. And so something I like to do is, a lot of times use a really fast compressor or a tape simulator or something to round off that peak. And let me show you here on the clave. Let me turn Warble off and show you this clave sound. Okay, I mean, it's great, and it fits, kind of bringing in that element of Latin, that we want in this production. But it's too sharp in the mix. The difference between the attack and the tone is just too radical. So what I did here is I'm using the dirt as well as the age and then both of our filters to make this clave fit the track a little better. So I'm going to let you hear a couple hits, then I'm going to unbypass Warble so you can hear the difference that we make. Okay, that's pretty radically different. And what you'll notice is the average volume is not really changing. This isn't any kind of a volume trick or anything like that. It's just going to fit the mix better because we're bringing up the tone of the instrument. You hear that increased sustain. We're bringing that up, the tone of the clave, and we're reducing the attack. Okay, so let's start talking about the modulation side of the plugin a little bit. And this is where it gets really, really fun and a little out of the box. Simple modulation. There's other plugins I know out there on the market that are just a detune or whatever, and they just kind of do what they do, and they don't have much excitement to them. This thing, because it's based on analog tape and old circuitry that these geniuses over at Neold have and model, it's got a lot of character, and this is where I started having a lot of fun. Let me show you, for example, the piano, and I'll have Neold in bypass here, so you can just kind of hear the piano itself. So it's kind of lo-fi, gritty. I don't have it panned very wide. It's not. It's a key element, but it's not for sonic purity, right? So let's go even more impure. Let's get a little filthy dirty here. Let's turn this dirt up. You can see I've got a little age on it. But really, the wow and flutter is where I'm getting somewhere. So let me show you. I'm going to play it like for a bar in bypass. Then turn Warble on and let you hear what I'm creating. Okay, you hear that movement? That's the wow and flutter. So let's talk about how we get there. I'm going to go up to see how I told you these two knobs are tied into these two buttons. So I'm going to go to fast, and I'm going to turn wow all the way off. Then I'm going to get really exaggerated with it, okay? That is wow. And so now you'll see if we turn if I'm going to push the slow button after just a bar or two, okay, so you can hear it, and you'll hear how all of a sudden the pitch variations happen much slower. Which for this song to me was more desirable. But you can even go in between there. It's pretty infinite, the number of options you have here. See this little screw right here? We can turn that. I don't do that in real time, so you can hear how much faster or slower we can make the wow actually happen. There we go. That is what wow can do, okay? Now let's listen to flutter. Again, it's the faster of the two, and I had a touch of it on this piano, but not a lot. But I'm going to really exaggerate it so you can hear it. And I will put it on the slow setting for right now. Ready? Okay, so that's, obviously very exaggerated, but very cool, huh? Now let's listen to it in fast, and it's just going to be, like a machine gun. Okay, and just like wow, this screw right here, we can go crazy with it. Okay, cool. For this song, I think I'd settled somewhere around there, and it was the slow settings. And you can see I'm using some of the EQ roll off here, and as well as some dirt and some age. And so now our piano track went from this to this. We'll show you one more time. So it's got a lot more interest, a lot more depth. So I took that and kind of applied that idea to multiple keyboard elements here. Let's talk about, let me find it on the screen right here, this guy right here. This is a cool little synth part that on its own, without any EQ or tape, modulation or anything like that, it was a little boring. It needed to cut through the mix. It provided a very necessary rhythmic as well as melodic element to the mix, but it needed a lot of help to transform the mix into something, or the production into something else, take it somewhere different. So let me play those in bypass. Okay, that's where they're living. Now let me mute the guitars so you can hear just the synths, and you can hear how they just don't really come to the front of the mix. Okay, especially with the guitars going and her vocal on top, they just weren't cutting it. So what I did is I added some flutter and some dirt, as well as a little, high pass and low pass. And I did the same thing. You'll notice I have an octave of that guy, and I did something a little different here. I added wow and different elements, or different amounts of the other elements, to where in the mix we were getting, here's without Warble. I'll let a bar or two go by, and then I will engage Warble, and we'll hear how they kind of elevate all of a sudden into, they sound like they're important to the production, because they are. Here we go. Okay, they're not louder, but the dirt, that distortion, that crunch that we're getting on the attack right here, right, that knob right there, that's making them kind of come to the front of the mix. And then I'm using the EQ here to place them in that mid band where I want them, okay? And then the modulation is just adding some interest. So let's keep these guitars muted. Let's bypass all instances of Warble on the synths, and let's give a listen to the boring synth parts without modulation, okay? With Warble, with modulation. It makes me wish I had a do-over. Mackenzie, I'm sorry I didn't have this plug-in when I mixed your song, or it probably would have streamed much higher numbers and made you much more revenue. So, so anyway, with all that said, as I mentioned earlier, the V76 as well as the Big Owl from Neold have become, they've really found a home in my mix, within my production techniques. And now, obviously, Warble will as well. I really, really like it. Think it's an extremely valuable tool, and hope that you do as well, that you find a sweet spot for it in your own mixing, okay? Happy mixing.